Hello guys, welcome back for another video. I'm a little nervous because today's video is definitely my most vulnerable video I've ever filmed. I just wanted to provide a disclaimer in the beginning of this video before getting started that we are going to be talking about some triggering topics surrounding sexual abuse. So if this is something that is very sensitive to you or triggering, to obviously proceed watching at your own risk. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about something that has a lot of deep meaning in my life, and I have discussed with you in the past that I've been doing my shadow work and I have been on a healing journey as an adult, because in every stage of my life I go through a different type of healing. So I went through a specific type of healing when I was a teenager, and now I go through a completely different type of healing process as an adult, and I will continue to heal and have different versions of healing throughout my life. And this particular video is going to be a video about sexual abuse. It's going to be about what I've experienced, and I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about how I have overcome my childhood trauma and the shadow work and healing I do as an adult, essentially. So I really want to talk about that today, but I wanted to provide that warning in the beginning. I also wanted to say that today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp, which is such an amazing sponsor for today, because we are going to talk about therapy later in today's video, and I really believe heavily, and you guys know this because I've talked about them several times on this channel, I believe heavily in therapy and getting help and seeking that if that's what you need. So I wanted to thank them in the beginning of this video for sponsoring today's video, and I hope that this video can help anybody, whether you are young, old, doesn't matter. It could be in the middle, you're going through a hard time, or you just need something that is just going to possibly help you or make you feel better about your own personal life and your own personal journey. Hopefully today's video will be that for you guys, because even when I was going through this particular healing process, especially when I was a teenager, because that was when I struggled probably the most, I purposefully did not watch videos like this because it triggered me, and I have overcome that, and I'm able to talk about it more, and hopefully you guys are able to as well after this. So let's just get into the video. I cannot wait to share with you guys everything that I've been through and things like that. And this video is going to be all over the place. I have notes in front of me because I don't want to miss any of my points, so I will be reading off of my notes from time to time. And the sun is literally setting, so the lighting will be changing. I apologize, but I really wanted to get this video out, and I feel like I am in the perfect place in my life to talk about these things. So let's just get into it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I would love to hear you guys' stories down below. If you guys are brave and strong enough to share, I would love to hear. But make sure that you guys watch the video through and through first. All right, let's get into it. So I want to get this out of the way in the beginning of the video. I was sexually abused from ages 4 to 9. So essentially, I do not know a life without sexual abuse. I do not remember my life much before 4 years old. So at the tender age of 4 was when I was introduced to sexual activity. And it was an extremely harmful thing that I went through because it did not allow me to have my innocence. And this was a huge and crucial part of my growth journey. I had no idea at the time that going through something like this for 5 years was going to completely change the rest of my life. But I am not only grateful for the experience because I can teach other people about what I went through and what it did to me, so that you guys can avoid some of the mistakes I've made, or it can just be a place for you guys to feel at home and feel safe. So I discussed to you in several videos that I have been actively doing shadow work and just doing deep healing from past traumas. I decided when I was 24 that I wanted to start doing this because I went through a huge life change. I went through a breakup. I started living alone. I had to start literally living with myself. So it was a completely different feeling. And I've been doing shadow work prompts and just doing things that I've never, ever done because I've avoided, honestly, addressing a lot of these burdens in myself. No matter how much healing you do and how much positivity you practice, things like this that happen to you in your life do shape and mold you, and different things that happen to you in your life can actually trigger these moments, and I'm gonna get into that later on in the video. I really have practiced like the art of not being jaded or bitter or depressed or anxious, and trying not to be super negative, but obviously these things do end up happening from time to time, and these qualities do kind of come out during certain instances in my life where I feel triggered or where I feel like something is a reminder of my past. So a question that I actually came across, and I'm gonna read it to you guys while I was doing a shadow work prompt, and it truly paused time for me because I'm a pretty strong person. A lot of words don't usually affect me. I've taken a lot of years and practice and learning to not be super hypersensitive to things, but one of the shadow work prompts questions was, when did I lose my innocence as a child to where it shattered my heart, and how have I treated myself since? I literally started crying because when did I lose my innocence? I never had innocence. 4 years old was technically when I lost it, but from 1 to 3, I have no recollection of my life. Those were very young years for me. So I lost my innocence very young, and it shattered my heart in a way that has affected how I've, trusted people in my younger years, in my adolescence. It's made me feel different from others, and I always felt a little bit like the black sheep and an outcast because of the things that I went through. I will obviously read to you guys in a minute what shadow work is, because I honestly had no idea what shadow work was. I've never heard of that terminology before. It wasn't something that I understood, but when I got deeper into doing the prompts, I realized, oh, it's like literally just tapping into like a part of us that we kind of tend to avoid. So at different moments in my life, I get triggered by experiences that remind me of like an out of control feeling, because obviously when you're abused, a lot of the times you do feel out of control. For those who have been abused can probably relate to this feeling. You feel like you're strong, but you also feel powerless, in the sense that you're taking the beating, but you are not able to fight back, especially when you're a child. Even if you're a teenager or an adult, it doesn't matter your age. When you are powerless, you are powerless. So essentially, after I have overcome my abuse, I was finally free of that. Any time that I feel out of control is when I'm triggered. So for instance, when I tell people I'm afraid of flying, well, why is the reason that I'm afraid of flying? Because I'm out of control. Because people always respond with, well, when you drive a car, you can die. More accidents happen in a day in a car than a plane. And I always say, like, I understand. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's probably because when I'm driving, I am in control. Where when you're in an airplane, you're letting your life be, in control in somebody else's hands. So not necessarily is it everybody's fault who makes me feel out of control, but I recently had an encounter with a person that has pretty much made this video possible, and I'm gonna explain why. I have been currently dating. I've dated a few people since being single, not like dated like where we're like together, but I've been seeing people, and I connected with a person that I really was interested in, and essentially he ended up lying to me about something pretty minor. Now I know people lie. It's not something that like I'm like I don't understand. Trust me, I know. But the reason why it triggers me is for 2 reasons. One, because of my abuse, and another because I used to lie as well. So for me, when I'll kind of bring up why I used to lie, or how lying used to be a thing for me, it was always a defense mechanism for me growing up. So it was my way of hiding who I really was. I was always feared of being boring or different or not funny or not pretty. So I would lie and make up stories to make myself seem more interesting. And it was something that I did for a huge part of my teen years and for my my adolescent years. And it was a vicious pattern that I finally outgrew. I believe maybe like 17 or 18 years old, I outgrew the lying, and I never really lied again since. And what really helped me outgrow lying was meeting somebody who made me feel loved for who I truly was. I didn't feel like I had to hide a version of myself. I didn't feel like I had to make up stories for this person to genuinely care about me. I know that that's not like a good enough reason, but that was the reasoning. So I wanted to at least put that in there. Which is why somebody lying to me, I usually know when people are lying to me, because it takes one to know one. Anyways, I say all of this to pretty much tell you that it triggered me and brought me back to my abuse. Not only was I once a liar as well, so I do know when somebody's lying to me, but I also equate somebody who is abusing a child, the P word, and I don't want to say the P word today because I don't like the word at all, but essentially you guys can, figure out what the P word is when a grown man sexually touches a child. What is that person? Essentially the P word is a liar, right? Because this was a person with a fake image. This is a person who was not the family man that he portrayed he was, and he was not a good person like he portrayed he was, and his charisma was fake, and it was a way to disguise the demons and the things that he was on the inside, which was a monster. And essentially, I have always equated somebody putting a mask on to being a liar. So when I think of somebody lying to me in today's world, literally what happened to me recently, somebody lying to me, it always brings me back to my abuse, which in a way isn't fair. And I shouldn't, you know, equate somebody who lied to me about something minor to somebody who abused me, but my brain naturally does it. And this was something that I really, really wanted to discover in my healing process and my shadow work, because I was wondering, why am I, after all this work I've done on myself and on the path that I've been on, where I've been more open and understanding, and am I comparing the two? And why can't I get over it? Why did this person lie to me? Now, granted, lie to me, you're done. I don't care. Even if it has nothing to do with that, it's just that I can't trust you. And to me, like, I rather trust you than love you. That's just the kind of person I am. Like, trust is huge for me. So my trust was broken, but I am always being brought back to thinking, oh my God, you're an inauthentic person and I can't, you know, be around you. Now, I really want to read to you guys what shadow work is. I'm going to read you guys this exact thing that I'm pulling from Pinterest. Shadow work is the process of uncovering your subconscious motives or reasoning for why you do the things that you do. It's the hidden or secret motivations behind your own behavior. This reasoning is ever so subtle, but when you look deeper, these realizations are profound and life-changing. Uncovering these hidden truths about yourself isn't always easy, but it is necessary for your growth as like a person in general. So I wanted to at least put that out there so you guys understood the little bit more meaning behind shadow work. I wanted to discuss more of my healing that I do as an adult and how I've become a pretty decent human being despite the trauma and anger that I've had for many years. I will never forget, I watched a Dr. Phil episode when I was like maybe 13 or 14, maybe older, honestly, I have no idea, but I want to say I was 14 years old. And he was giving like statistics about women or men who have experienced some sort of sexual trauma or abuse or anything in child years, and essentially said like, oh, 1 in 3 of these people become strippers, and 1 in 3 become drug addicts, and 1 in 4 become suicidal. And I remember watching that and saying, well, this is really insightful and thank you for the information, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm very hurt by this because it almost makes me feel like I have no reason to live or do anything good with my life, because if this is the statistics and this is supposed to be my destiny, right? And I didn't know anybody personally who went through what I went through, so I kind of felt alone in my own thoughts, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you're essentially designing people to be, you know, not great people, or subconsciously what it does to you is it makes you feel like, oh, well, I have literally no hope. Like, nobody's gonna really ever deal with me. I'm not gonna become a good person. I'm never gonna have good relationships with men. I'm never gonna trust anybody in my life. People are gonna always hurt me. I'm gonna become somebody that is just such a mess and a wreck of a person. I'm gonna become a drug addict and a loser. And it really hurt me to my core. And I also hated like the narrative of like everybody who experiences sexual trauma becomes super promiscuous and kind of a slut in a way. And although I do believe that that can happen, I definitely don't think that I am any more sexual than I was in school with. I never felt like I was wild or crazy or did anything out of the ordinary. I had a pretty normal sex life. I was a pretty normal kid growing up, but of course, every single time that you do something sexual, you hyper focus on it thinking, oh my God, is this because of my trauma? Is this because of this and that? And in reality, like, I meet people all the time that have encountered no trauma in their life and they're doing crazier things than me. So now that I'm at a certain age, I no longer feel insecure about my openness with my sexuality. Of course, I felt hesitant about sharing my abuse with you guys online because I was afraid you guys were going to correlate it with my de-appointment videos and how to prepare for sex, and you guys were going to find, you know, oh, well, this is why you're like this, and it made me feel very insecure. But I realize now, like, whether it does or does not have anything to do with my abuse, I'm a grown woman and I can talk about these things if I want to. I wanted to quickly talk about healing and therapy because I was in therapy the majority of my life. So the time that I spoke up about the fact that I was being abused, which was at 9 years old, until I was about 20 something, maybe 21, I was in therapy for those amounts of time through and through. I took breaks here and there. Right now I'm going back to therapy, which is exactly why I'm bringing up BetterHelp, because as much as I've plugged BetterHelp several times, I am actually going to be actively using them currently. So again, thank you BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. I wanted to kind of give you guys a little background about BetterHelp, and it essentially is like a really useful and amazing tool to have therapy. You don't have to sit in a waiting room and wait for a therapist. You get to have access to it in your own home, and it's with a licensed professional therapist, and you can start communicating within 48 hours. So after this video, you guys want to see a therapist, 48 hours from now, you're going to be able to communicate with a therapist. And I do want to mention it is not a crisis line, so if you're feeling any type of things that are going to be damaging, just make sure that you guys call 911. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp, over 20,000 therapists. So if you don't feel like the person that you're, matched with is not the one for you, you can always switch out, which is really great, and it's so easy to do. You can even do phone or video sessions depending on what is more comfortable for you. Maybe you don't want to be seen and you feel uncomfortable, and you want to like feel a little bit more private about the things that you want to share. You don't have to get on video to talk about these things. And it's just a really great community for people to be able to access therapy and access the help that they deserve and need when they're going through tough times in their life and they want to just feel happier and better and more productive. Let's just be for real, like when you're not happy, it's hard to be productive. Like it's hard to really channel your best self, and BetterHelp will help you with this. And I also wanted to include that they do have more affordable therapy and financial aid is available. So I wanted to say that to you guys. I will provide the link on the screen for you guys so that you guys can access BetterHelp today. And I hope that this will help anybody who is going through a tough time and needs therapy. Let's do it together. I'm going to be using it as well. So I'm excited to get back into therapy because there's never too many times for me to heal. A huge part of my healing process was obviously going to therapy, and I didn't realize that that was not where it ended. It was also me doing inner work in my own life. And I wanted to, in my shadow work journey, kind of figure out and cultivate like a thoughtful way of me dissecting who I am, my wants and my needs, especially when it comes to men, because this is huge in my abuse journey. So even if it feels wrong, right? So for me, I would always pursue men who felt non-threatening. Men who weren't super loud or charismatic. I never liked the loudest man in the room, and I never liked guys that over-sexualized my body. Even though I do love to show off my body and I feel very sexy and I love myself, I usually do it to empower other women. I don't love the idea of a man who is obsessed with my body and with me. I want somebody who loves me for my core, because again, it just triggers me in ways that have to do with my abuse. So yes, I tend to date guys who honestly really didn't like me. You can ask all my ex-boyfriends, they were not checking for me, boo. I literally said you and me and we together, and it just ended up working for most of my relationships. In my now healing journey, I am now receptive to dating men who pursue me. I am willing to compromise because I am realizing that I cannot constantly punish somebody else for something that has happened to me as a child. So I have a preference when it comes to the type of man that I'm attracted to, but I am willing to let a man pursue me, because at the end of the day, that is the right way to have a relationship with somebody, because we as women are definitely receivers, and we want a man to pursue us and to want us rather than us seeking and pursuing them, because at the end of the day, the ball is not in your court when you do things like that. Also in dating, I would never have wanted to date somebody older. It reminded me of the dynamic of my abuse. But again, in healing, I remind myself, Haley, you're grown, almost 25, this is consensual. And this is a huge part of my healing journey. And I wonder, for all of you guys who have also been through abuse in any type of way, did you have to go through that healing stage as well, where you were constantly dating guys that were like your age or younger, and now you're like, okay, like I'm being receptive to dating older? I would love to hear from you. Another part of my healing journey as an adult is working on my hypersensitivity. The fact that I'm a Cancer, I'm already naturally sensitive as it is, but the fact that I am a product of trauma, I was always overly sensitive growing up. I didn't know how to channel my emotions properly. Everything was always left inside because we didn't talk about the elephant in the room, and a lot of the things that I was feeling and going through different moments in my life where I'm experiencing, like talking to guys and friendships and people hurting me and going through just life in general. It's hard as it is. I am now super hypersensitive to words and things that people say, and I feel like I had the thinnest skin in the world. And in my healing journey, I realized, girl, you're not weak. You're stronger than you think. You've experienced trauma that a lot of people have not experienced, and you came out on the other side unscathed. I mean, granted, I am a little, not perfect, but the fact that I have all this, my life, my family, my friendships, I have had successful relationships, I have to give myself the credit that I deserve, which is that I was strong in the end. So anytime that I'm feeling super out of control and very sensitive to words or things that people do to me, I always have to remind myself, girl, you're stronger than you think. And don't let your mind brainwash you into thinking that you're weak because, you're overly hurt. Just remember, it's not everybody has the same heart as you, and people are going to do things to you, and to not always take it personal. And that was something that I really had to learn in my healing journey. I wanted to discuss back to the person that I was talking about earlier who essentially lied to me. I wanted to, bring that up because For years, I have been self-improving, working on my goals, healing, and recently I've been doing shadow work to become a more well-rounded woman. And in a blink of an eye, you can revert back to old versions of yourself from people in your life that you didn't realize would bring that out in you. I was embarrassed that I behaved in the way that I did with this person. I said, what the fuck? Who am I? And though my frontal lobe will fully be developed this year, the lessons God will provide me are never ending, and I am a student of life. I just take as I go, and I learn that, you know, I'm not always gonna have the answers to everything. I'm not even gonna know the why, but I do know that everything in life is a lesson, and that's just the way it is. I wanted to also just bring up, due to my healing journey, things that I no longer do that have helped me grow as an adult. First thing is I don't judge my friends or people that I know for who they date and what they see in certain people. I used to be the most judgmental person on the planet, and I now realize that I can't be like that because we all end up getting in dynamics that we once maybe judged. And the reason why this is relevant is because you could enter a dynamic that triggers your past, triggers your abuse, and you're wondering, well, why am I keep feeling something? Why do I keep feeling something that is literally not serving me? Why do I keep entertaining something that is bringing up traumas in me? And sometimes it's God's way of having you do the work, realizing you are not done yet. You are not fully developed in this area yet. Where you thought that you didn't need any work, you do. And that is something that I've even learned in my own personal life and the own dynamics that I have created with people is when I thought I was done dealing with something, something happened to me and I was dealing with it again. So I now understand, and judgment will only separate you from your friends. And I let them live and learn, and I will be here at the end of the road, and hopefully they, you know, gave me the same courtesy. Another thing that I don't do that has helped me grow as an adult is I don't punish myself for being weird anymore. I let myself be me, whether it's quirks that I've developed from trauma or just things that I do in general. For example, I like to tap into different versions of myself to make me feel more comfortable depending on where I am or the circumstances that I am in. Sometimes I'm soft, quiet, and observant. It's very rare that that's happened to me, but if I feel intimidated by a crowd or a man makes me feel very nervous, or it could be anything. Sometimes I am more observant and I'm quiet and I'm not really so much, you know, my extroverted self that I normally would, you know, be. Sometimes I'm wild and crazy and say shocking things, and I have a dry sense of humor, and possibly I'm a little bit sarcastic at times. This is a version of me. This isn't fully me, but I let myself do it because at the end of the day, I have always tried to be the cool girl, the girl who always was trying to be like the one that everybody was interested in, and oh my God, like let me be like that girl. And I realize now, like it doesn't end up holding up, okay? Like you end up always reverting back to your original self. So whoever that is, me being weird, I'm just going to accept that. Another thing is I don't look at my past or my trauma as a hindrance in my life. I look at it as a superpower. I think everybody who has encountered or been a part of a trauma similar to mine can say that, you know, in ways it has hindered you in certain areas. Maybe you have a difficult time trusting men. Maybe you have a hard time trusting women. Maybe you didn't understand your sexuality fully and you were experimenting in ways that you didn't realize that you were harming yourself. You maybe experimented with drugs and alcohol and self-medicated. The list can go on, right? But we all are responsible for ourselves at some point in our life, and my responsibility to myself is to not look at my trauma as a hindrance for propelling my future, because I'm not going to give the person who did this to me that much power over my life. So what I like to do is I feel like I'm provided with a superpower that allows me to see under the mask a little bit better than the average person. I am naturally more aware of my surroundings and can read people a little bit better than a person who has not experienced this type of trauma. When I am in close proximity with a person that I do believe is a P word or a liar or a con artist, I know. It's very odd, I just know, and it feels really good. So in a way, I do feel like I choose pretty good people for myself in my life, whether it comes from friendships, family, or partners. I do and can see through the bullshit. The next thing is I don't punish others for what had happened to me either. It's no one's fault except for the person who did it. As much as you want to point blame at other people that because of the fact that you're hurt, it's just not fair. So I've learned in my journey in healing to release that pent up anger and channel it into loving myself and being more passionate about the things that I care about. So I've turned anger into passion. Anytime that I'm feeling restricted, angry, stifled, hurt, misunderstood, I just channel it into my passions, and and drive it forward, because I really don't want to live my life in vain and live my life in anger and pain and resentment and push away people that matter to me because I am so upset with how things went and all of this, because again, we're giving the person that did this to us power, and I don't want to do that. And I always have these discussions with myself because I am imperfect, and I do go through stages where somebody will bring out a version of me that I fucking hate, and I'm like, oh my God, why are you doing this to me? And then I realize, girl, take a deep breath and channel it in a different way. Love yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't serve you and start being more passionate and driven in the areas of your life that you care deeply about. Those are pretty much the ways that I have worked on dealing with my hurt and my anger. I can always discuss further more about my trauma in other videos. I didn't want this entire video to be about exactly what happened to me because it's redundant, and what is cathartic for me is talking about how I've came out on the other side. So I hope my story has helped those who have went through a similar life experience. God knows I understand what you're going through, and you're going to go through some really sucky, fucking terrible growing pains that are going to break you as a person, and you're going to sometimes feel alone and sad. But I promise you that if you do the inner work, you are going to feel better. I promise. And this is all about regaining your power and taking it back, because a monster does not deserve to have you in their hands for the rest of their lives. When you give somebody all of you like that, it's like, it's not fair to yourself that you're letting somebody so disgusting take a version of you that they don't have any business having in the first place. And I try very hard to look around at all the blessings that I have in my life and say, you know what? It was all worth it. I am extremely grateful. And although I have been through a lot, and the pain is always going to be there somewhere deep in there, the pain will always be there. I will never let somebody take away my spirit again. And I hope that I can inspire you guys to do the same. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video. It was super cathartic for me, and I felt like I released a huge burden off my chest because you guys now know me through and through. There is no secrets. I am not hiding anything else. And this is a huge part of who I am and why I am the way I am. So I'm so happy to have shared it with you. And I hope that for those who have experienced this type of trauma, I want you to know I'm here for you and I'm sorry. And you are going to be okay. You are going to be okay. And I wish I had me when I was younger. Tell me that. So I hope that I can be that for you guys. I love you guys so much. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And use BetterHelp if you need it. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.
It's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace.